Welcome to another Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the NFL schedule debuts tonight. That is right, an avalanche of content coming our way. And me and Alex are getting you ready on this Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. First, what are the primetime matchups that we are hoping to see this season? Then we're going to take a look at strength of schedule and determine who could slide and who could climb in the standings based on that strength of schedule. All schedule talk, all episode on a Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Let's roll.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Football fans, thank you for tuning in to another Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. As I mentioned at the top of the show, the schedule will debut tonight, so we're giving you a little schedule preview here on the Locked On NFL podcast. The primetime games we want to see, looking at strength of schedule, teams that could slide, teams that could climb in the standings based on that strength of schedule, all that conversation. We're going to dive in today. I am one of your hosts, Tyler Rowland from the Locked On Titans podcast. We have Alex Clancy from the Locked On Cardinals podcast. Going to be breaking it all down. Thank you guys for making the Locked On NFL podcast your first listen every day. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you do stream. You're going to find the Locked On NFL podcast everywhere and always free. That includes the Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Make sure you guys subscribe over there and throw a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube right now. But Alex, diving into these matchups that we want to see, the primetime games that we're hoping to get, I'm kicking it off, and I got to go close to home here. And I think it's a game that not only will be very entertaining for the fan bases, but I think it'll be very entertaining to follow the storylines heading into the game, especially if it's placed in the slot that I want it in. Tennessee Titans,
Boom.
Philadelphia Eagles, Thursday night football. Listen, it's not a big enough game and two teams to get a Sunday night or a Monday night slot. But that A.J. Brown trade, there's been a couple of trades between the fan bases. They had a really good game in 2018 that went into overtime. I think with the storylines involved in that game, if it's an early season Thursday night football game, I think it could be a really intriguing one and a better matchup than we've gotten at some point in times on Thursday night. So that's my first entry in this primetime games we want to see, and a little close to home, I know. But Philly and the Titans would be a good Thursday night football game.
Yeah, that's good. I can appreciate that. I'm going towards the youth movement here. What we've seen from Mac Jones so far is surprising, but not, it's, is he going to be the next Tom Brady? No. Is he in the right system for a young quarterback? Absolutely. Yes. They've got, Ramondre Stevenson really emerged last year. Their pass catchers haven't been great. Jonnu Smith, your boy, got exactly how much money you thought that he deserved, I'm sure, as he signed with them during the last offseason. Hunter Henry, touchdown machine. But I'm very, very excited to see what Zach Wilson can do this year. Because if Zach Wilson can turn into a Patrick Mahomes-y kind of guy in an emerging AFC East, maybe not emerging, maybe deepening, depthening, and not being so top-heavy with Buffalo like we thought it was going to be. The Jets may have had the best draft of all the teams, them in Baltimore. So I want to see on Thursday night in Foxborough, Jets, Patriots in December. Like, I want to see cold. I want to see Zach Wilson, and I want to see what these kids are made of. Because this is like, we're starting to see Tom Brady fade, even though he's going to be at the top of his game. But we need to see what the next iteration of quarterback is going to be. And I think that we're going to be in really good hands, better hands we've been in a long time, if that group can follow the Justin Herberts, et cetera, and, really have the NFL in good hands. So Jets, Patriots, Thursday night football in Foxborough in the winter.
Okay, I definitely like the time slot and the weather concept around that game. The next one for me is Browns at Bengals on Sunday Night Football in November. I want Deshaun Watson playing. I want the new look Browns against last year's Super Bowl losers in the Bengals. Deshaun Watson versus Joe Burrow, that new rivalry that's been created within that division, the outstanding and long-standing rivalry between the Browns and the Bengals already, and in my opinion, also a little bit of a homer opinion here, but Ohio is a mecca of football in this country. I want the Battle of Ohio to take place on the big stage on Sunday Night Football with the two best quarterbacks in that division, in my opinion, Deshaun Watson and Joe Burrow. I want to see that battle, the new battle for Ohio with two superstar quarterbacks on Sunday Night Football in November. I think that would be a fantastic game to watch.
Yeah, and this is a really easy one for me. I want to watch all the Chief games without Tyreek Hill, with Marquez Valdes-Scantling, with Juju Smith-Schuster, etc.
Yeah.
Ronald Jones, I think they signed also. I want to see Chiefs, Bucks on Sunday Night Football in Tampa Bay. Because what we saw last time, I think it was actually Thursday night. I think it kicked off when Tyreek Hill had 200 receiving yards in the first quarter. I think that was against Tampa Bay.
Right.
I always want to see, because we don't know how much longer Tom Brady is going to play. We think that Patrick Mahomes is the heir apparent. We don't know. It's just shown, like, it's gotten weird since they won, you know? So
yeah,
I want to see as many of those as possible before Tom Brady retires. So I don't care when it is. I don't care when it is. I just want a Sunday Night Football game, Chiefs, Bucks, which I feel like if I'm going to predict one, most likely that will be a Sunday Night Football game, you'd think. So I'm just hoping to see it.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because the last two games that I have on my list include either Mahomes or Tom Brady. So, number one, Patrick Mahomes against the Denver Broncos in Denver on Monday Night Football. I think that could be an awesome game to watch. Similar thing. You got a new rivalry within the division between two of the best quarterbacks in the league, and that Monday Night Football atmosphere, late in the season, prime time in Denver. I mean, they do it well in Denver, so I would love to see that. And then my other game was, I would like to see the Rams at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get that NFC top tier contender match on Thanksgiving night at 8:00 on Thanksgiving in Tampa Bay. I think it would be awesome. So those are the last games that I have on my list. Do you have any additional entries?
It's going to be really interesting. I feel like there was going to be another one, like Bills Dolphins. Like, I want to see what Tua's going to do. And I know I went
AFC East twice
because it hasn't been on the radar at all since Tom Brady left, and it wasn't even on the radar when he was there. Like, when was the last time when Mark Sanchez and Rex Ryan beat, Peyton, or beat Brady or beat Peyton, whoever it was? Like, it's been a long time, man. The closest we got was Tyrod Taylor in Buffalo stealing one or almost stealing one from Tom Brady once a year. Like, we haven't seen it. I just want to see Tua's got weapons. So I want to see if he's able to stay healthy. I mean, if you told me the Dolphins won 11 games next year, would you be shocked? Like, you'd be surprised, but it's like, well, you know what? They built their roster
right. Yeah,
right.
I mean,
exactly.
Tua was right in the system and everything went right. I could see that, but even if everything goes right, I don't see them being better than the Bills. But if they're going to win 11 games, the Bills will probably win 12 or 13. That game late in the season could decide a lot, and it could be super intriguing. So I totally get where you're coming from there. But we're going to continue the schedule talk, but we're going to look at things a different way. Based on strength of schedule, who are some teams we think could climb further in the rankings than people are expecting? Maybe slide further down the rankings than people are expecting. Before we get into that part of the conversation, though, I do want to tell you guys a little bit about BlueNile.com, the original online jeweler. They have everything you could want in terms of fine jewelry. They have everyday elegance. They have statement pieces. They have some items that are both. Go to BlueNile.com right now for all your fine jewelry options, like diamond jewelry, cocktail rings, tennis bracelets, gold layering jewelry. I mean, everything. It's a great time to get a gift for that special someone, that special lady in your life. So make sure that you go to BlueNile.com today. Use the promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get $50 all 500. This podcast exclusive is only good for our listeners, so use promo code LOCKEDON at BlueNile.com. Again, the great place to go for fine jewelry shopping where you can shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today.
Welcome back. Thursday, Locked On NFL. He is Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans at Tic Tac Titans on Twitter. I am from Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy, at Clancy's Corner on Twitter. Thanks for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. It's coming. The schedule release is coming. We hit our wish list for time of games and the opponents we like to watch play each other in prime time. The strength of schedule came out also. CBS put this out on Twitter, and it is absolutely brutal. So let me just run down real quick the top 5 toughest schedules in 2022. The Rams first, Cardinals second, Bengals third, Bucks fourth, and then the Chiefs and 49ers are tied for 5th and 6th. And the easiest schedules, the NFC East, go figure, all tied for right. 29th, 30th, 31st. The Cowboys, the Commanders, and the Eagles and Giants, because they play each other twice a year. So, and there's a bunch in the middle. Tyler, we're going to run down this segment who we think could have a meteoric rise from where they were last year. And then in the final segment, we're going to do kind of take a step back with somewhat of a collapse due to strength of schedule or otherwise. Yep. So, Tyler, why don't you give me a couple of teams that you think are going to rise from where they were in 2021?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, strength of schedule was based off of opponent winning percentage from 2021. So that's right. how they're calculating that. For me, some people who I think are going to end up much higher than they were last year with getting an assist from strength of schedule. Number 1 for me is the Detroit Lions. I like what they're building there. I like the attitude of the coaching staff. They're kind of my little pet. I got a pet lion this year. I think they're going to be my little pet team that I know isn't going to do anything big, but I want to do well, which actually may be counterproductive to them if they want to get one of the real stud quarterbacks next year. But either way, their strength of schedule right now is just ahead of the 4 NFC least teams in terms of easiest. So they have the 5th easiest. And I think that with what they're building there, what they added in the draft, I like the roster that they're constructing. I like the attitude of the coaching staff. For me, the Detroit Lions are a team that will finish a lot higher than they did last year, and strength of schedule will be a big help. And another team is the Baltimore Ravens. They're 23rd, have the 23rd hardest schedule in the NFL, or whichever way you want to flip that, easiest, hardest, however you want to rank them there. But they have an easy schedule, and I think that they're going to be a lot better this year. They're going to be less injured than they were last year. And I just believe that Baltimore has a good roster and good coaches. So with that and the injuries that they sustained last year, I think they're primed for a bounce back year and probably a wild card spot. So I think Baltimore will finish higher than they finished last year. And I think some of that will be because they do have an easier schedule.
Yeah, I think those are 2 good ones. I think the ones they're gonna fall back are a little bit easier to kind of see because obviously things have shifted. And I've been on record, and you didn't necessarily agree with me about this. Lamar Jackson was having his best year as a pro, in my opinion, last year before he got hurt, because everybody was hurt. Everybody was out before the year started. You know, J.K. Dobbins and Marcus Peters and Lisco. It was a murderer's row before the season started and then throughout the season. And I think Lamar Jackson is going to expound upon that. Hopefully, even though he's without Hollywood Brown now, hopefully he'll be able to stay healthy. So a couple teams that I'm looking at, you know, with strength of schedule and also obviously with strength of schedule mostly to look at. I like this is tough, but the Colts. I think Matt Ryan is a heavy upgrade over Carson Wentz. He's an adult in the room. He's been there before. He's a rinse and repeat. He's a much better and much more reliable version of Kirk Cousins. It's just, even though Kirk Cousins' numbers have been big, like
I don't know about much better. Well, I don't know about that right now. Kirk Cousins pretty solid last year, even though he's crapped on all the time.
Okay. One game, are you picking Matt Ryan or Kirk Cousins to win a game? We're not doing this right now because I think you're going to say Kirk Cousins. We're not going to do it.
No, you're right. You got me. Checkmate. Yeah, I'd take Matt Ryan if my life was on the line.
Yeah, and so Matt Ryan led Colts. And, looking at this, like, is Davis Mills a bad quarterback? Like, I don't know if we know yet, and no. I'm telling you, the AFC South isn't going to be an exemplary division we see moving forward. Like Tennessee, they've got their shortcomings. They're A.J. Brownless. I don't know if you know
they got worse. The team. Tennessee got worse this offseason.
Right.
I
think that Houston being an under 5, they're playing opponents who had an under 500 record from last year. I think Houston is going to take a step up, not necessarily a playoff push, but they're going to get back into relevancy here. And our boys at Locked On Texans deserve it. Like John McClain deserves it. The guy that's covered Houston sports forever. They deserve it. And I think they're going to take a step forward. And you know what? Like meteoric rise, I don't think that any team has gotten that exorbitantly much better. I think you could say the Jets, maybe the Eagles, depending on if Jalen Hurts takes that step. But I think the Texans are a team that are going to consistently get better. And I think with their record, not with their strength of schedule not being over 500 this year against opponents, I think you could see it sooner rather than later. Alex Clancy, Tyler Rowland, Locked On NFL Thursday. Coming up next, teams that are going to jettison back to earth, whether it be, mostly because of strength of schedule and also, because things have potentially changed. I get to go first. I'm going to steal Tyler's. That's next. Locked On NFL Thursday. First, our partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find out the latest odds, news, and sports development, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, final segment, Locked On NFL Thursday. Tyler Rowland, Alex Clancy. You can check him out daily at Locked On Titans, at TikTok Titans on Twitter. Every day, Titans news. Me at Clancy's Corner every day, Cardinals news. Schedule release is coming out later today. We've ripped through a whole bunch today. Games we want to see when. Teams that, due to strength of schedule, will take a step up from 2021's performance. And now we're going to talk about the teams that are going to come back to earth. I know that I'm going to go first because I want to take the low-hanging fruit first. I want to take the one that's easy. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to take a large step back, in my opinion. Their strength of schedule is difficult. The AFC North is now we're neck and neck for what the toughest division in football is.
Right.
I don't know. The NFC West has held it for the last couple years. The AFC North was always the Steelers, then everybody else, then the Steelers and Ravens, and everybody else. And now, who's the best team in the AFC North? It ain't the Steelers. And the Steelers have 6 games against teams that are very, very difficult interdivisionally. And that's why I think my first one, when I look at the list, and the Steelers have the 12th toughest schedule, that's one. And then 2, they weren't great last year. This year could be tougher. The Carolina Panthers is another team that's yikes. They missed on everybody. They drafted Matt Corral, I think, right? But where are they going to get their production from? Are they going to Arian Foster, Christian McCaffrey again, coming off injury 2 years in a row? Probably not. They have no safety net. Their defense is good. Jeremy Chin is great. But what are we doing here in Carolina? I haven't seen enough to where I think that they're going to get better than they were last year. And they weren't great last year after starting 3-0, right? After starting 3-0 with Sam Darnold. So those are my two that stick out to me immediately, and they're both tied for the 12th toughest schedule in 2022.
Yeah, I think that's definitely logical. I mean, like you said, I like some pieces on Carolina's defense with Chin and Shaq and then Brian Burns. I think they do have some good pieces, but overall, I'm not very confident that they're going to be able to survive a tough schedule. So I'm with you there. But my two sliders are totally different than yours. So I like that. Number one, the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
If I recall, what were they, 11-6 last year?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Or was it 12-5?
It was 11-6.
11-6, yeah. So they have the second toughest schedule in the NFL going through the NFC West. I think that while Cliff Kingsbury's been good early in the season and then kind of fallen flat late in the season, I think people have a good read on what he's doing now. And with DeAndre Hopkins being out for the first 6 games of the year, I think that Cliff Kingsbury has done the most of his good work early in the season. And then, like I said, falling flat later in the year. So if that offense is without DeAndre Hopkins early in the season, when Cliff Kingsbury normally is able to win, they might not be able to be as successful early in the year. And that could lead to a dip, a little bit, dropping down more than Cardinals fans are probably wanting with the second toughest schedule in the league. I think it makes it even more likely to happen. So the Cardinals are a big slider contender for me. And then the second one is the Las Vegas Raiders. They have this tied for the 7th toughest schedule in the league this year. And even though they've added Devontae Adams, they added Chandler Jones, they have added some pieces, I just don't know if you can count on Derek Carr. And for all the pieces that they added, the Broncos got that much better as well by adding Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. So I think they're the 4th best team in that division. And I think it's a good spot for them to probably fall out of the playoffs. And a lot of that is because of the schedule.
Yeah. So I think, and at this point in the clubhouse, it looks like the AFC West is the toughest division in football, at least quarterback wise. I mean, Derek Carr is a top 14 quarterback, a top 12 quarterback, top 13, top 15, whatever.
Right.
And that's who is there a top 15 quarterback in the AFC South? I'm not doing a direct hit at that, but it's there are divisions where there aren't top 15 quarterbacks, and then the AFC West has all top 15 quarterbacks. I think Derek Carr, we're going to find out. We're going to find out what Derek Carr is because he has everything. He has everything. He's Stephon from SNL. He has everything. Hunter Renfro's their 3rd option throwing the ball in the backfield. And,
they have the weapons.
They have the weapons, and they have Chandler Jones, even though he's at somewhat of an advanced stage. But, I agree with that. I just don't know. We're going to find out this year if the Raiders are going to be – if they're going to contend for the division or they're going to contend for a wild card spot. Because remember, in the AFC, there's 13 teams that can make the playoffs. And there's only 7 spots. I think that's – I'm looking at it still and taking a dip. I think Jameis is going to be fine in New Orleans. I think they're going to figure it out. They always figure it out. Now, how good is Dennis Allen going to be as a head coach? How good is he going to be as a leader? He hasn't been great in the past. People love him in New Orleans. Ask Ross Jackson, what he thinks about him. I'm not putting words in Ross' mouth that he knows a lot better than me is what I meant. But yeah. I
kind of want to piggyback on something that you were saying earlier when we were looking at the games we wanted to see, and you made it the AFC Alex over there in the AFC East. You look at the Patriots at the 16th hardest schedule in the league. If the Jets and the Dolphins do take a little bit of a step up in the quality of their team, and the Patriots have, top half hardest schedule, I don't think it's out of the realm of possible. We're talking about people sliding from where they were last year. The Patriots made the playoffs and wet the bed. I don't think it's, maybe if Mac Jones takes not a step back, but doesn't take a huge step forward because he just is who he is, and the other teams around the Patriots get better. I think it's definitely possible that the Patriots could be a slider who suffers from playing in an improved division, and they don't make the playoffs next year. I think that's highly likely, in my opinion. If I had to project today, I wouldn't project the Patriots in the playoffs. So I guess I wanted to throw that in there as an honorable mention. But You know, guys, that was another great Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Make sure you guys tune in on Friday for Chris Carter and your boy Q. They're going to be breaking down the schedule release and all the awesome games, kind of seeing if any of our suggestions came to fruition. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Locked On NFL podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you do stream. Subscribe to the Locked On NFL YouTube channel as well. That's going to do it for me, Tyler Rowland, and my co-host, Alex Clancy. We will see you guys on Friday.